As a side note, though, we talk about McPhillamys. Do you remember when McPhillamys study came out 9 months ago, and it was pretty underwhelming? We were a bit unimpressed by the numbers. But when it came out, the base case scenario, development scenario, used a gold price of, in Australian dollar terms, $3,000 per ounce, which gave it an underwhelming post-tax NPV of just $451 million. Now, spot gold price is $2,400 an ounce higher than that as of today. If you chuck that gold price in the model, McPhillamys NPV is suddenly $2.3 billion. That is the sort of torque that these development projects have in a rising gold market. And
Righto, buddy miners, big news that has completely fucked my day.
Shaken West Perth.
Let's Eat lunch bar is closed.
Ooh.
Q and T have obviously taken a holiday, and if you've seen me today, I've been in turmoil. I had to eat something else, and I just felt like I was cheating on him.
do you notice how much more quiet the streets are when there's no line out the front of Let's
It's like
Eat?
a banh mi apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's friggin'... Oh, anyway, I'll tell you what, I've got live footage of a place that isn't closed and never closes.
24 hours.
The Black Diamond Drilling Factory.
Hey.
Have a look at this shit. There is bloody drill consumables, open pit underground, flying out everywhere. This is live footage from today.
Today.
Matty, rattle off to us what they can do for you. What
Pretty
they
much you
produce
want to
for
bloody drill a hole that doesn't need a Ryobi handheld thing. Black Diamond are the team for you. We're talking down the hole hammer bits, rotary bits, bloody RC hammers, mate, just top hammer, diamond drill consumables.
They make rigs.
Oh, they bloody do. They're probably making a rig right now if you want it, mate. They're just, and we're talking open pit and underground, mate. They are the full drill consumable turnkey solution. They, mate, it is freaking impressive. This factory, it is friggin' hectares. Like, mate, it is flying. So they're working today. Q and T are not, but that is okay.
Yep, and they work with the best in the industry, from the Newmonts to the Rios of the world to whoever you're working for, because you can just pick up the phone, give them a call,
mate.
get in
Numbers
business.
in the show notes. If you need an intro, you just give me a buzz because it sounds good coming from me. Right. What do we got? She's a bit slow today because I've got to get all antsy on public holidays because the market's not open, and like, what do I do with my life? Can't scroll watch lists, and there's not heaps out today. But
well, you found quite a bit in the end.
The gold price is the news. I mean, gold price is up 5% today, and as a result, the things that are moving in the market are the gold stocks. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
Very good, JD. What do you got, bruz?
There's quite a bit going on at MP Materials. So I touched on the rare earth stuff last week, but I think there's quite a bit of fallout from the tariffs. So I'm going to talk about that.
I'd like to special shout out to Maddie Gabriel from Market Index for providing me the feature to just look at all the announcements since Thursday. So I've just taken about 6,000 screenshots, and we're doing it around the grounds for the last couple of days.
Let's do it. Let's start with the goldies, Trav.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's quite remarkable to see the gold price go up 5% in a single day, and it's like a couple $100 in Australian dollar terms. It's just one day.
It used to be 10%.
It's kind of remarkable, and and we're seeing gold equities obviously like follow that trend. A lot of gold companies are heading a fair bit north of where they were just at the start of the year. And we love commodity markets because of that dynamic that can sometimes happen in a commodity market where you get the thing that's not priced in happen, the commodity price goes up, the stocks go up, and sometimes you get these like option-like dynamics with the undeveloped projects that are now in the money. And I'm kind of keen to have a look at some of those option-like projects out there in the gold market, because everyone's trying to think like, if gold price stays up or keeps going up, then where is value left in this trade? And a lot of people will argue that there's still value in the trade for the producers which aren't pricing in, that spot will be where it is for forever and all that sort of stuff. And but I'm kind of keen to just see the option like kind of the projects that are that might have gone through a bit of a cycle to be pretty in the money now. And
what are the sort of parameters for companies you're looking at, mate?
Well, I'm just thinking like advanced gold development project in Australia. I just kind of wanted to limit it, and I'm not all that interested in the projects which are held by existing producers, or a major or anything like that. So I'm not talking about the Hemis or the Havrons of the world, or even like the McPhillamys, which are development projects or growth projects that are within the portfolio of an existing producer. I want the stock that has exposure to the development, if that makes sense. As a side note, though, we've talked about McPhillamys. Do you remember when McPhillamys study came out 9 months ago, and it was pretty underwhelming? We were a bit unimpressed by the numbers. But when it came out, the base case scenario, development scenario, used a gold price of, in Australian dollar terms, $3,000 per ounce, which gave it an underwhelming post-tax NPV of just $451 million. Now, spot gold price is $2,400 an ounce higher than that as of today. If you chuck that gold price in the model, McPhillamys NPV is suddenly $2.3 billion. That is the sort of torque that these development projects have in a rising gold market. And so, what was underwhelming kind of 9 months ago can be pretty damn attractive right now. And I'm kind of on a mission to try and identify or look at projects that sort of fit that bill that might all of a sudden be pretty valuable in this kind of market.
So it's pretty unreal. The IRR's probably gone from 17% into like 35 or something.
It'd probably a fair bit higher. And you just think about the payback period in developing these things too, because the gold price is so high. The payback period is super, super quick. And I'm also kind of limiting my search to, those developers which are kind of producing right now, think of Black Cat or Mika. I'm kind of, not looking at them either, because I just want to look at these, the pure kind of undeveloped project sort of suite. So
take her away. What have we got on the list?
You and Me, Rox Resources, $235 million market cap. DFS is underway and FID targeted for the end of the year. It's refractory. It looks like they're going to use the Albion process, but if it gets developed, to produce over 100,000 ounces per annum, and it's advanced enough that you can certainly see a pathway for this thing reaching FID by the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of ounces, good grade. Like you trim a little bit on the refractory process, but it's
It's got the permit as well, right?
Yeah, well, it's an existing underground mine. Yeah,
yeah, not a given in this day, so that's important.
Katanning, which is owned by Ausgold. So Ausgold has a $200 million market cap at the moment. The approvals process is still largely ahead of them, but another of the roadblocks historically has been the holdout of freehold property owners over the project. Unfortunately, it kind of got to the point where it's, part of that negotiation has gone to the Warden's Court, where there's a hearing scheduled next month, but it also appears there are other freehold landowners in addition not covered by that claim, which also still require an agreement. So, yeah, there's unfortunately kind of the timing to production as a result of these things that they still have to work through is uncertain because of these kind of factors, and that stops me getting super excited about this project. But if they can get there and get past those sort of hurdles, then there's a decent endowment and a respectable production profile that can come out of Katanning. Very
much so.
Apollo Hill, this is Saturn, and Saturn has a $130 million market cap right now. I'd just be rehashing what Headley said about Saturn in our podcast recently, and this is a bit earlier stage than the others I've spoken about. It's only got a PEA out so far. There's a PFS due by December, and then a DFS after that. So best case scenario, construction in 2027, but they position it as a 120,000 ounce per annum gold producer. And if the gold price kind of holds up, I do think this will get constructed. So
be good to say heap leach in WA.
It's the sort of market that you see all kinds of things that are where unfamiliar kind of come Albion, for example, the heap leach, these sorts of things can happen in this sort of market, I think.
It's because it's only like 0.5 gram, isn't it? The dirt?
0.54 from memory.
Yeah.
Next up.
Tunkilla. So this is Barton Gold. Barton has a $100 million market cap right now, but it's been soaring over the last month. We're talking about South Australia, and it's another, earlier stage of the lot. It's only got a scoping study on Tunkilla so far, but there's potential for a respectable production profile if the study numbers of 130,000 ounces per annum kind of stack up. Again, though, its timeline to production a bit uncertain because it's a bit earlier stage. But financing would certainly be doable if you have a sustained gold bull market.
All right, back to WA.
Yeah, Mandilla. So this is Astral's project, the Mandilla Gold Project. So Astral's capped at $240 million, and it's not the cheapest of the developers out there, but it has a lot of good things going for it. It's in the right postcode, being the gold fields. It's this project can produce over 100,000 ounces per annum. It's got a PFS on it due by June. But I think the company will have plenty of kind of corporate appeal as well, just given its location and all of the different players in the vicinity and the type of gold market we're in, where if you can get ounces to a mill in a shorter period of time, that's incredibly accretive at current gold prices.
Interesting with that one, how they did the merger with Maximus. Because the big constraint on them before was the size of their tenement, so they were effectively going to have to mine a pit and then use that pit to put waste in for the next one, because they didn't have enough area for waste dumps. But now just securing that tenement it's essentially sort of paid for itself, because they can now mine everything a lot quicker without having to do all this funky trying to squeeze it in the tenement. So it was a good play.
Speaking of the corporate appeal, Minyari Dome by Antipa. Antipa has a market cap of $326 million now, and there's plenty of conjecture from plenty of angles that Greatland Gold will look to acquire Antipa. And if gold prices hold up, even though it's over a $300 million company, it'd still be quite accretive to do so. However, there's some uncertainty on the timeline. Could it be mined in what period of time, and what's the gold price going to look like then? But if you could mine it tomorrow and pay its market cap right now, you do it. So that's the equation Greatland's going to have to weigh up. But at least there's a logical mill for it to go to.
Very much so.
Yep.
Go to the other end of the state.
Ravensthorpe. So Medallion Metals. Medallion has a $120 million market cap at the moment, and they now have they seem to have a low capex pathway to production via IGO's Cosmic Boy plant, where they've got this exclusive arrangement to pick that up. This could be one of the more advanced players of the bunch as a result, and FID could be announced by the end of the year. It's not plus 100,000 ounce per annum production profile, but a 70,000 ounce per annum production could still be formidable in this kind of gold price environment, and that's the positioning that Medallion is taking.
It'd be interesting to see if they get the gold rights, exploration rights up at Forestania as well. So could have a bit of a hub going on there.
Yep.
Right, head to your neck of the woods, Kalgoorlie.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention Horizon Minerals. They're capped at $150 million, and it's a company I haven't spent a heap of time looking at in the past, but I think it's worthy of a fresh look with new eyes. They've got a bunch of ounces scattered across various tenements in and around Kalgoorlie. And what's changed in recent history is they acquired Poseidon Nickel. Importantly, that has come with the Black Swan processing plant. And Horizon has GI Engineering on the job to repurpose that for gold production. It'll be an important piece of infrastructure, that plant, in a pretty hot district, especially if gold prices hold up, as plenty of people are looking to monetize their in the money gold project. And Horizon has plenty of gold themselves that they can likely mine profitably in this market, and if they have their own mill to send it through, then that just helps them capture more of that margin. So I'm going to keep a closer eye on Horizon now.
Yeah, that's Kalgoorlie through and through, that company.
Yes.
Now this next one, gold price is at 5,400. If this is getting a mention,
it's a bit of a left field one for you guys. Mount Todd, which is Vista Gold. Now, I think there's an adage, it's a gold bull market when Mount Todd gets a rebirth. And the Northern Territory project is currently held by this North American junior called Vista Gold, which is capped at about $100 million US. Mount Todd is it's the largest, hardest 0.9 gram per tonne ore body you'll find. But talk about torque, TORQUE. This project must have plenty of leverage in this kind of market. So just one that you've got to throw in the mix in this sort of market.
For you to watch there.
Yeah, very good. Good, bloody chuck 'em all, make that bloody, get going to ComSec, put Trav's gold watch list.
Gold watch list.
Chuck them all in there.
I don't think it should be understated. There's a lot of downside if gold prices fall off here, but people are looking for the names to watch if the bull market continues. These are the ones that I'm watching because of that option-like dynamic.
Yeah.
And hopefully nearish term production that they have too.
Very good. Good segment. Right, JD. Mate, are we talking about a rare earths rebirth?
Oh,
no, just chuck a bit of mayo on it. Why not?
I wish I could. I'm not quite sure, Matty. I think there's quite a bit of nuance to this story given the trade war dynamics. You get pretty distorted markets. You get higher prices for the same commodity in one part of the world versus the other. But, look at the stock price of MP Materials. It peeled off 12% on its last trading day before the Easter holidays, and off over 20% in the space of a couple of days you zoom a bit further and there'd been a real run up there. But this is all a fallout of the trade war and the tariffs, and there's quite a bit going on here.
So based on those stock movements, we're not looking like a rebirth.
Well, for MP Materials, I don't think so. I do think there's opportunity for some players in the market, but this is the most opaque market we speak about. It has been flooded with Chinese supply, so I'm not going to come here and profess that I can just sort of see the future with it, because it's as muddy as the waters sort of get.
So what's the goss that's out?
So when we spoke about it last week, I mentioned that MP Materials sends about 2/3, if you go off last year, of their concentrate to China, and the rest of that they try and turn into NdPr themselves. Now, importantly, that's all of their profitability, pretty much, because the product that they turn into NdPr, they're still ramping that up and they can't do it profitably yet. So that is loss-making, essentially. And you're talking about a company that does about 45,000 tonnes of REO, rare earth oxide. 32,000 last year was sent to Shanghai, their partner in China, who's also one of their biggest shareholders. And like I said, that the rest is consumed. This ratio is coming down, so they're going to be internally consuming more as they ramp up NdPr production. But exports have come to a pretty abrupt halt over the weekend because of these 100% plus tariffs, meaning it's not economic to do so. So in MP Materials wording, they say selling rare earth concentrate to China under a 125% tariff regime is neither commercially rational nor aligned with America's national interest. And they sort of added that their California refinery is processing now about half, so no longer just 1/3, that's going up, like I said, of their product into materials that they're selling ex-China, so Korea, Japan, and these sorts of countries. Now, they also added that they want to step up oxide production, as well as getting into separation of heavies, as well as bring in magnet production. And yeah, suffice to say, none of these are easy things to achieve.
What do you think of the spin?
I think a lot of people are reading through it. I think this is a massive blow for the company, no matter how they can try and spin it. Like, this puts them in a very tough position because it was all of their profitability, right? So, you can look at the earnings of the company, and they fluctuated with the run-up that we saw 21, 22, and they earned a bit of money, but they haven't been earning money in recent times, given that the weak pricing and the revenue that was coming in the door has just been pretty much wiped. So I'm not buying the national interest spin. This was a big part of the narrative for MP Materials, that they are going to be the national champion, but self-interest triumphs all, right? And I'm sure they're very patriotic people, but that's not at the expense of the company functioning properly. So if you want to paint a pretty picture like the company has tried to do, they are saying they're going to be ex-China and they're going to be more independent earlier than they would have otherwise been. But if you're going to be a bit bearish about it, their profitability is gone. There's a lot of pressure on ramping up NdPr production, magnet production, and all these other parts of the supply chain. And they're a company that has US $280 million in cash and US $900 million in debt. So, I mean, the debt's not coming due tomorrow, but it does put pressure on, as we know. So if you look at what they did last year, 1.3 thousand tonnes of NdPr production, they want to scale that up to 6,000 tonnes. And less than 10% of that probably is going to be used in their magnet facility when they can get that up and running. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions they're going to be trying to answer internally and tell the market. And I sort of I thought I'd just run through a couple of them that kind of come to mind, right? So
Curious, mate.
Will MP Materials be able to consume 100% of their mine production? i.e., do they even have capacity to try and turn that into NdPr? The answer is pretty much no. It's not.
Because you're saying they're midstream, they're doing 50% of their current production, but they're looking to 4 times that production?
Yeah, they wanted to ramp that up, but at the moment and for the foreseeable future, they don't have anywhere to put all that REO, so they're just going to have to stockpile it. And that you see the inventory on the balance sheet tick up, but it's money not coming in the door. And it is not easy to find a buyer of rare earth oxide that isn't in China. So it's not an easy question to answer for the company, right? And then you get the point. What do they even do with the NdPr when they produce it? right? Because we know Japan's pretty much maxed out with Linus, and a lot of that stuff even ends up in China. It's very convoluted, but there is no demand in America for the NdPr, or not enough demand for what they are going to produce. So another big unanswered question. You've got more unanswered questions like, can US companies in any sort of shape or form, whether that be magnet demand, NdPr demand, scale up quick enough in line with what MP Materials want to do? They're talking about this completely ex-China supply chain, but that is not going to happen overnight. That's going to take a while to come into effect. And, as you'd expect, MP Materials tries to answer these questions. They say in their announcement that they've got manufacturers reaching out saying, we've got demand for whatever you want to produce, whether that's the, halfway through the chain or further down the chain. That's a positive, right? But no contract is signed. Like that's not money coming in the door.
Can I throw in just something into the mix there? And that's one of the rumours we heard sometime last year, and this was really talking about the Australian government, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, there were murmurs of a similar thing overseas and all that sort of stuff. But it was that the government would sign the offtake. Like they would sign, floor price, longevity at X price, and that would underwrite the independent supply chain, and also in some instances development of certain projects which otherwise you couldn't get an offtake for.
Absolutely. I think if you're buying MP Materials,
you're counting on that.
You're kind of counting on that.
Yeah.
Like this is trading way in over its earnings or anything like that. It's at after peeling off probably a 60% run this year alone, compare that to the rest of the market. That's pretty outrageous for a company that's earnings have been massively hit. Like absolutely, that is a super valid point to make. And I'll sort of add to it that there's a lot of nuance to this. So they talk about magnet production. Magnets come in all different shapes and sizes. Like magnets they have a contract with GM to produce a magnet that is, from what I understand, one of the easier quote unquote magnets to produce. Magnets for defense and these sort of other high tech applications, very difficult, and difficult means more capex needs to be spent to learn how to do it. Also, their Mountain Pass project is sort of more slanted towards the light rare earths as opposed to the heavies. Where do they kind of get the feedstock that they might need? Who knows? Maybe there's a deal to be done in this sort of capacity, given the value of their paper as well. The ionic clay producers, we all saw them jump up massively last week. A lot of them have peeled back a little bit, but these get thrown up because they're generally easier to extract the heavies from. MP say they have enough heavies for the contracts they have at hand, but maybe they want to expand, maybe they want to do a bit more, add new magnet and different types of magnet supply down the line. So maybe they use their paper for a couple of these kind of beaten up projects. Who kind of knows? I just sort of think all this to say is that the road to being a national champion in the US MP Materials is perhaps not as simple as everyone makes it out to be. You still have to be able to execute on it, and it's not something that the US in any shape or form has executed on in any kind of capacity, and it becomes increasingly tougher if you had all your revenue cut. You need to just hold your hand out to the government a bit more. And it's interesting to see that the CEO sold over $50 million worth of stock in the last month alone. I think, actions sometimes speak louder than words, and, maybe there were reasons. No, nothing wrong with someone just taking a few chips off the table, but yeah.
How much has he got left?
A substantial amount. They sort of spun this company together a bit over 5 years ago now. So, And I also think it's worth keeping in mind that I saw last week almost every single rare earth producer on my watch list chucking up an announcement about what's going on. So just remember, like the old adages like Greater King and, jurisdiction, all these things matter, because there are a lot of juniors out there trying to milk it a bit at the moment. And yeah, you need to really go through the checklist of what passed muster at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Oh, it's bloody... We chatted about all this stuff with our Sammy Berridge interview, which will be out later this week, about these pending bloody commodities. Which one's going to go first? Rare earths definitely in that basket.
It's an interesting one, right? Super
Yeah,
interesting.
very much. Right, let's do a bit of we'll do an around the grounds. It's like a bloody a video director special.
What have you got for us,
From
Matthew?
Thursday. Well, the first thing that really caught my attention end of last week was this LinkedIn post. Have a look at Adam Wilson, the action figure. Not just the action figure from KCA, it's the title down the bottom. It's taken off. Just call KCA. It is even, KCA are even using it, so there is just going to be a money of mine legacy with KCA forever. Because obviously they've thought they're probably on the phone to a customer, searching for people, searching for equipment, searching for mining expertise, which KCA is the one-stop shop for. I'm just so stoked that we've got this to take off.
Isn't that brilliant?
Just call KCA.
One-stop shop. I think you nailed it there, Matty.
And
all you need.
You can get everything from KCA. Mostly kit and people, but you can also get these action figures.
You can get it. Why not take an Adam Wilson action figure? But it's like, that's the thing. It's like, it's him. It's not just call Adam. It's just call KCA, because it's the team that he's built to deliver you the people, the machinery, and whatever you want.
Problem solvers.
Just call KCA. Anyway, back to more not as good mining stories as KCA.
What do you got?
But we'll get on it. So, De Grey will be into Northern Star. It's official. Scheme meeting votes happened. 99.64% voted yes for those that voted.
I actually tuned into that webinar and it was pretty boring, I must admit.
Yeah, it's like the whole deal's just been boring, really. It's like no one interloped, no one just good for Northern Star, I guess. But so yeah, that's final. They'll have the final. What do they have? A final court hearing, don't they?
It's all straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, 5th of implementation, 5th of May, and De Grey will be delisted on the 6th of May. So congratulations to all people involved in that company and getting a pretty bloody big outcome for shareholders. What a journey. So now she's Northern Star's problem.
All right, next up.
Bellevue. So near-term hedge book closeout confirmed. So
this was sort of flagged, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you can actually see that there's about 5,000 ounces left in December. So I think it's a very small amount of their production. So they're pretty bloody close to fully unhedged for the remainder of this calendar year. 5,000 ounces to deliver in December.
Even the difference between when they came out with the announcement and when they managed to do it would have cost them a few $1 million.
Just the gold price, yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw a note it cost them 5,000 ounces or something in changing gold price.
Wow.
With the hedge book and the liability. So you've seen they actually creeped back up. So they raised it 85 cents, remember. They actually crept back up to a bit over $1, but they've pulled back today 93 cents they're sitting at, a bit of an underperformer. So this next quarter is going to be, if they don't hit this 40 to 45 that they've said, it's going to be should be bloody mayhem. So
work cut out for them.
Let's hope that high grade comes along. Parenti. So they've. Was it AUMS Parenti?
Barminco.
Yeah, but I think it was over there, so it was probably AUMS, African Underground Mining Services. They had the contract over at Comicau in Botswana, but it was a 5-year contract, and it looks like they unfortunately haven't been able to get it extended. I think they extended it last year confirmed the extension for a year last year, but it will be finishing up 30th of June 2025.
Chinese company going owner-operator. That's a big surprise.
That's the one. So that'd be, it's a bit of fleet there. Deep Yellow, quarterly out, as we haven't talked about it, so they've deferred their FID for the Tumas project in Namibia, citing the sufficient uranium price incentivisation for a greenfield development project. So it's just, I find this very interesting, purely because a 30-year mine life. It's going to be £3.6 million producer, not like a huge, but I'm like, what does it say? Like, what does it say about the uranium outlook versus the project outlook? Because it's like, okay, 30-year mine life. If you're going to bloody be going that long, there's going to be nibs and flows in the cycle. Why wouldn't you commit to developing it now? And the term price is what, $81. The DFS costing was US $75. We're above that. just interested to see why they're not going to progress such a long life project. I'm thinking, are they looking for a Chinese company to buy it off them so they don't have to, which makes sense in Namibia. Looking at the cash they've got 227 million, but as you can see here, for initial capex is US 470, so about 750 Aussie circa. It's like, do they want the price to run so they can raise a shitload more capital to equity fund it, which is probably what I'm leaning to.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Like I know John Borshoff says that it's fully equity funded already, but in reality, you're going to raise a bit more money on FID, and you want to minimise dilution when you do that.
Yeah, and so I think announcing FID now, they don't want to take bloody $500 million in debt, I wouldn't imagine. So I do it, and look, the project may be at US 82.50. It's only a 19% IRR. Like, it's pretty. It needs projects like this, these low grade open pits in these jurisdictions, I think need the big prices to really make it feasible. So
especially if you're on the debt, you need it. You need an offtake, and then
because that's a 4-year payback for all that at these deck prices, which we know are never true. So I'll be I think unless the uranium price goes into the hundreds, I don't see projects like this potentially being developed by these people unless China buys it off them. So anyway, we'll wait and see. Santana, go across bloody, because of Anzac Day coming up, so we're going to talk about the New Zealand operations a bit. They put out some new open pit stages for their Rust project. Looks like pretty bloody, bloody mobile view. Pretty much saying they've dropped a shitload of waste off a new excavation strategy. It looks to pretty much drop the amount of waste they have to pre-strip to get to first ore. So pretty much gone from 15 million BCM down to 7.9. So, and because you can see these stages, how you look at the volume at the start compared to the waste volume for that stage. So extremely high strip ratio at the start, because you can see you've got to essentially take out a bloody mountain to get down to the ore. But you can look at, once you get down to those later stages, there's a lot lower strip ratio to deal with. And it's just got that Carla Winder look about it in the ore body, like that shallow dipping, very, very similar layout. Can't comment on the continuity of it compared to Carla Winder. But look at it, the resource grades, like once you get to stages 4 and 5, it's like 3.5 gram dirt in an open pit. So that's bloody underground dirt these days, high grade underground. One to watch.
New study on the way.
Yeah. Ding on the next one for you two. WA1 hasn't been talked about much. Thought we'd just say good day to it. Good old WA1. They put out some. They're still drilling. Still got a couple of rigs on site. One sort of doing the resource infilling side of things. Then others doing like a lot of stuff for the PFS, like probably a bit of water drilling and all that sort of stuff. So pretty amazing to look at the size of the deposit. What is it, 200 million tonne or something? The joys of having shallow bloody holes and not having to drill deep. 55,000 metres of drilling to find that whole resource to date, which is pretty phenomenal.
They never really raised a huge amount of money when you think about it. The cap raises are always pretty small size compared to what the market cap was. So.
Yeah, hence why it's got a share price that is 11, like in the double digits, because it hasn't got shitloads of shares on issue, and the founders, rightfully so, have a good lick of stock. So, I guess we're waiting on. I think they're going to do a resource update by late this quarter.
Yeah,
and then we'll be waiting on some sort of study. But that study is going to be that's a big study. Like, that is a lot of scenarios to plot out for something that's never been done in Australia. So it's like especially these poor bastards, when they assayed niobium, they're like, holy shit, we've got to learn about this commodity. Like, they come from probably a zero-based and now doing a study on it. So it's
thing to watch for with that study too is just how there's a very high grade kind of subset of that resource, which the beauty of when you have a very high grade portion of any resource is what that means for your financing. Like you can get earlier cash flows and it reduces your kind of your total spend. You know what I mean?
It's just been forgotten about in terms of, is one of the Aussie billionaires going to step in and have a look at this, or a big major? It appears not at the moment, but we'll see what happens once the study comes out, if that's what they're waiting on. But it's definitely drift back and not talked about at the moment. So, Ali GC, you diversified into lithium. Good on you. Diversified. Counter-cyclical play from Ali GC on Pilbara Minerals. Their quarterly come out the other week. You can see
PLS now, Matty.
Oh, it's just PLS, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, because new logo as well.
Oh, because we've got Brazil. We've got the POSCO, Joe. We're an international lithium company.
With the old IGO.
So everyone always says, right, is Pilbara making money or not in this lithium price environment? So it looks like they spent about 100 mil on CapEx to finalise the P1000, which is going to be essentially the P1000 expansion happened. They've put the Ngaju plant on care and maintenance, which has dropped the site back to a P850 operating model. So sounds like they invested 100 odd mil in CapEx, went back about 100 mil. It said their operational cash flow was about 30 mil, and I think the all-in sustaining was about 14 mil profit. So it's like pretty bloody close to break even. So you can see the tonnages and the revenue were down for the month to reflect the Ngaju plant going on care and maintenance.
Look at the revenue, right? Like
150 million. Do
you remember when we were talking about it?
They used to be about 20% of their profit.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So on that number, they trade at like a 7 or 8 times revenue.
Yeah. And what are they, about $4-5 billion company now?
4.4 when I last looked.
And a quarter of it's in cash.
1.1, yeah.
Yeah. So they obviously had the impacts of tropical cyclone Zelia as well, and then obviously the ramp up of their P1000 expansion. So it sounds like the CapEx has been sort of, most of it has been spent for that. Yeah. Now they're going to be optimising. So it appears now, I reckon, even at these prices, like you look at their realised price for the 5.3, was $7.47 US, probably helped along by the exchange rate. So that was up. It appears once they optimise and not spending CapEx, they probably will be cash flow positive a little bit. So hopefully, you'd assume, based on the amount of the lower tonnes they got. So yes, we'll wait and see. The what do you call them? The bloody Australian lithium workhorse. That's Greenbushes, really. But anyway.
They'll have a decision to make up in Korea as well, sooner or later, whether they want to take up that estate to take them up to 30%.
Yeah. And comments about the Latin as well. It sounds like they're not. It says they're going to put out a study optimisation June quarter 2026. So you can see, probably as we initially talked about with that deal, it's like they've pretty much got 4 years. They'll probably just push the whole thing out, which appears what they're going to do, as you would in this environment. So it doesn't look like anything's going to be progressing over there in the short term. So Black Cat first gold, bloody delivered to them by MMS. Don't you mind? First gold, first Lakewood gold.
So they're in the mill
from Calais. So and you see when they're talking about better grade and recoveries, all above expectations, sure helps when you're processing it yourself. Yeah, so you can't blame anyone else. So they're 60,000 tonne of Maya all hauled on 1st April. So they got about 2,700 ounces of production, and they bloody poured 750 ounces. So, mate, gold is flying out of Maya. Right, Gorilla. Jesus Christ, this bloody thing is just going off its head. They Gorilla Gold put out a maiden mineral resource for Vivian. So remember, I'm pretty sure Ramelius, they got this off Ramelius for not bloody much.
Peanuts, yeah.
Yeah. And so they put out a maiden resource for Vivian, 278,000 ounces at 4.1 grams. So also, once they chucked the lake, they put some drill hits out from Lakeview. That's part of the Comet Vale project. and just bloody, it's 52.5 cents, even after raising a good chunk of cash previously. Like, what is it, 300 mil market cap now? It's just Genesis owns 7.37% of it, and they're obviously putting all the value in the drill bit. I'm just
You said 300 mil.
I think it's 300 mil.
So that's a bigger market cap than any of the advanced gold developers I mentioned at the top of the show. That's very interesting.
Well, I think Euros Hartley's just initiated coverage on them and put a graph up of EV to resource ounce, and it's like
top of the list,
second to Spartan. Effectively,
Yeah.
They're obviously going to be growing those resources, but it's just got that. But it's interesting, we talk about like you want competitive tension and everything. Like Genesis have effectively got their foot on it, in a way. But it's like
this is just a market darling at the moment.
All the bloody people there now work for Genesis, and bloody, I'll be interested to see what the outcome will be. If it's like, are they going to build these projects up individually? Like, because Mulwary that they pulled out of Genesis, which is right next to Ora Banda, are they going to try to dress that up so Ora Banda takes it, or is it all of this stuff going to be? I think I've talked about it ages ago, like the exploration vehicle for Genesis, because Genesis have made money out of the stock. Are they going to? Is it all going to be then just all purchase agreements back into Genesis in the future? Because I can't say there's no other company that's going to go take a swing at them with Genesis being a 7% shareholder. Maybe they would. Maybe they'll keep it low so it's not too much of a deterrent. But it's obviously just all drill bit value at the moment. So, I don't know. It's just it could just go so many different ways. Like Vivian, for instance, could be some of your closest mills to that. There's obviously Agnew and Bellevue, but there's also Darlow and King of the Hills, which is Red 5. So there's so many. I'll need one of those mind maps of how many different ways this could go. So there's obviously a goal in sight, I would assume.
I'm not so sure I'd say in sight, right? This whole management team's MO is just drill. Yeah, just drill.
But you want a liquidity outcome for those big holders.
You do, but absolutely. But they've sort of learnt the lesson that prolonging that and teasing it out has netted them a fair bit more fruit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them sort of keep adding value through the drill bit for as long as possible.
But imagine if gold pulls off like you said, like, which who knows if it's going to happen. Look at like their wildcat journey. Look, it went up, now it's back down. It's so that without the sort of event, they're still left with the shares. So they would want an outcome to realise the cash, I would assume. So who knows?
It's tricky to realise the liquidity event when you're priced kind of for perfection as well. Like people aren't willingly going to pay overs for something just because it's got a team attached to it. Maybe retail will, but a corporate won't.
Once they get out of this drill phase, I'll be just interested to see, because there's a mining story attached to each of these projects that could go to either Genesis or other companies, like all their Comet Vale stuff straight up the road to Leonora, perfect spot for it. What that'll look like, I don't know. I can't see Genesis buying the assets back. I think they'll just operate independently. Not sure. So, bloody...
Anything else, Matty?
Phoenix didn't action the matching right for the CZR takeover, so that's heading to Robe River.
Robe River joint venture.
Yeah. So
as we sort of suspected.
Yeah, so it hasn't really affected Phoenix's share price, still ticking along, so I'm sure they'll be looking to do another deal in the future. So they got close. 75 buckaroos heading to CZR.
Phoenix netted a bit of cash for their troubles.
What was the break fee?
Well, it wasn't just the break fee, but they ended up accumulating
15%. Yeah, that's right. Strickland. Zijin taking a stake in Strickland. So $5 million placement to Zijin, now 2.4% holder in Strickland, all about Serbia.
Our friends from China.
Yeah.
Do you see the reaction to Trav's piece on Zijin? People thought you were the proxy for the CCP.
Oh, Jesus. That was it couldn't have been any less about Zijin, the miner. It was Zijin, the stock performance. Like, it was very simple the way you articulated it.
I think there's a cohort of people that are pretty frustrated by CGN from a certain stock, and that cohort of people can't be reasoned with. So, but they're frustrated. I empathise with their frustration.
Yeah. But no, it wasn't a bloody yes. Then you're getting questioned about how much money do you take off bloody all this? And, oh god,
The CCP have not given us money.
yes. Strickland. So they're be interested to see what happens with their oxide stuff. So this looks there. The CGN, you would assume, solely focused on that Serbian asset. Still got their oxide stuff up in Yandal. Is that going to get flicked out to someone else in the district, Northern Star, or maybe someone a bit further south? Who knows?
Maybe they flick the Serbian asset out and they keep doing.
Maybe. Could go either way, JD.
Could go either way.
Revolutionary thinking. Right, there we go. That's everyone's up to date, including myself.
Good stuff.
Right, thanks all the partners as always. Get your GRX tickets, like I have, May 22nd in Brisbane, the centre of tech and innovation. Discount code in the show notes. Bloody use it. Makes us look good. Our great friends at Mineral Mining Services, Grounded, Sandvik Ground Support, CRE Insurance, K-Drill, WA Waterboards, Quattro, KCA, or KCA, Black Diamond Drilling Services, and Cross Boundary Energy. Hoodaroo.
The information contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation, and needs.